Hello everyone, thank you for joining the Originating Loans webinar. Let's get started with the housekeeping and legal disclaimer here. I will leave this up on the screen for just a moment to allow you to read that before we proceed on with the rest of the presentation. Next, if you have any questions related to this webinar, you can use the chat feature in the GoToWebinar, and one of the consultants that we have on the call with us will answer you. Any other questions can be directed to our support line at 1-800-342-2599. I'll be your presenter today. My name is Allie Whitaker. I'm the Professional Services Training Team Lead here at Calix Software. Today, we're going to be covering the originating of loans. So we're going to go through the overview of the loan application, how to pull credit into a file, how you can submit to Fannie and Freddie, and then how to keep track of your loan statuses inside the file. So let's go ahead and open up our point and get started with a file. To start a new loan, you can either click the New button that's in the top right menu area. That'll allow you to manually start entering a file. Or if you have Zip or Webcaster, you can click the button on the navigation panel on the left, and this will bring in the application that the borrower has filled out. Today we're going to go up and click the New button and go through a blank file. At this point, you've got several options here. The top option is a new blank file. This will be completely blank and allow you to fill in all the information of the loan. The bottom option here is using a master template. If you have built out any master templates down in the template section, this will populate any defaulted information that you entered into those templates to start out in your loan. I'm just going to go ahead and do a new blank file, so I'm going to click OK. And a new blank file has opened for us to start entering our application. When a new file opens, it's always going to open onto this borrower information screen. You can see over on the left where there is a list of all of the forms, borrower information is listed at the top, and this is the screen that we are on. We're going to go through and start entering some of the loan application. So this top section is where you would enter their name and their social and date of birth. Below that is their best contact information along with email. Email is important if you are going to be using the Zip or Webcaster for doc request or the electronic signature. Below that you have your present address. So you can put in their current address here, and a nice feature inside of Point is if you go down to the zip code, type a zip code in and push tab, it's going to bring up the selected city. If there are multiple, it'll bring it up and put it into a drop down for you to pick. But then that will fill in the city and state for you. Under that we have our subject property. We do have a copy from present address, so if you are doing a refinance, that's an easy way to copy that down so you don't have to type it again. If you have a purchase, you can just enter the information there. Underneath the address in the subject property, you have attachment and property type. These are important to be filled out if you are going to be running Fannie or Freddie inside of the point system. You will get an error if you don't fill that part out. So let's go ahead and fill this out. Also to the right, you've got mixed use, manufactured, and number of units. You also need to fill these out so you do not get errors as well. Over to the right of that section, you have a credit score area. See, there is a borrower and co-borrower section. Once you run credit inside of Point, this will automatically bring back the credit scores. Let me scroll down a little bit for us. We then have our loan summary section. So on the left, you see we've got two gray buttons. We have a loan program and a CC scenario. Both of these are templates that you can build out inside the system. They are just built out in the templates section of the navigation panel. That's in the bottom left. Once you've built those out, you can then use them inside of files. So you would click on that gray button, and then you can pull in a program that you choose, and also that closing cost scenario. Below that, you have an originator dropdown and processor dropdown. This is where you can select your name from a dropdown. The admin can enter your name into the dropdown list. You select this, and this will then populate your NMLS ID and email address for the application. Underneath that, you have some check boxes. This is where you can select the type of loan that the file is. You've got your conventional FHA, VA, USDA, and other. Over to the right, you can select if it's going to be a primary, secondary investment, and to the right of that, the lien position. Right above that, out to the right of the loan summary, you also have more checkboxes here. This is where you can say if it's going to be a purchase or a refinance. If it is a refinance, you will need to pick the subcategory of refinance inside of that. Over to the right of that is going to be our note rate and loan information. So this is where you can type in the appraised value, loan amount, down payment, any of that information. With us doing a refinance, I'm going to enter a $200,000 and then a loan amount of $150,000. As soon as I've entered that, you can see over on the right, there's an LTV, CLTV box. Those have populated. They're also underlined in blue, which means you can click on them at any time, and it will tell you how it is calculating. Underneath that, we have our income details chart. You can see here the income details chart is grayed out. This will flow over from section 1 when we enter the employment. Then the income that is attached to the employment will flow over here for us. To the right of that, the other obligations. This, once we run credit, will flow over the obligations or debt from that credit report for a quick reference for you. At the very bottom of the first page, we have monthly payments. So the box on the left, the monthly payments, is for their present housing. So if they do own a property, you'll want them to enter their present monthly housing in here. What they'll need to do is highlight and either double click or click the edit button. And this will open, allowing you to type in the amount and save and close. You'll do that for any of the lines that need it, such as the homeowner's insurance or the property taxes. Over on the right, the proposed monthly payment is for the loan that you are currently doing. So you can see the first mortgage has automatically calculated for us because we have our loan amount, our note rate, and our term and due already up in the top area. So we would just need to add any other payments that is needed to be factored in. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the homeowner's insurance, double click that. Inside here, you're given two options. You can add a rate in, and that will multiply it by the loan amount that is out to the left. Or you can override the monthly payment lockbox and just type in the amount. I'm also going to do the property tax for us. Click the lockbox here and type in an amount. Since we finished the borrower information screen, you would want to go ahead and click Save, and then we could walk through pulling in a credit report. I'm going to go up to the top left where that little save icon is, or you could go File and Save As. Once your file is saved, you can see in the top left it has .dash. That will be your file name. It'll either be auto file named if you have that set up with numbers, or you'll have whatever you manually typed in. So after you've entered your first screen of information here, you want to go and pull your credit. You can pull that in two different ways. You can pull it from the top menu bar. If you go up to Services, it's kind of in the middle, and then onto Credit Report and Request Credit. This is one way you can request credit. You'll select your credit agency from the drop-down. Once you've run your first credit report, it will hold the agency that you just ran it with, so you will not have to select it each time. And then if it is a new credit pull, it's already set up for you. The request type will be New Order, and you will just go down to the bottom and select Submit. This will then pop up and ask for your credentials. You will need to type in this again. It will not save your password unless you click that Check Save Password button. We'll click OK here, and it will then pull in our credit report for us. The other location that you can run credit is actually in the application itself. So I'm going to jump over to Loan Applications Section 2 and 3. You can see that on the left side in the Forms list. And if I scroll down a little bit, you can see this 2C section, Liabilities. There is a Request Credit button here. You can request credit here just like we did with the Services menu. They both go to the same screen and they both act the same way. Let's go to Loan Application Section 1. You can walk through the loan application together. So back over on that left, you can see that a lot of the information that you filled out on that borrower information screen is going to flow over to your other pages of the application. So now you would just need to go through your application and fill in the other areas and or add liabilities and match REOs. So that's what we're going to be doing here. You can see that top 1A personal information has come over from that beginning page. So all you would need to do is add any alternative names. If they've had credit under any other name, you could add that. And then you would enter the marital status. Let me scroll down so you can see all of those. If you select the unmarried status, the unmarried addendum box below will ungray and allow you to answer this question. So if they are unmarried and somebody has property rights, then you can answer yes or no to this one. If you do answer yes, it is going to open up the box below that and allow you to designate the type of relationship and the state. You can see below we have our current address that we filled in from the previous page. You would then fill in the amount of rent if that was here. And then below that you have the ability to add in any former addresses. So if they were less than 2 years at a property, you could just click the Add button. Then this screen would pop up and allow you to add in their previous address. Below that we have the mailing address. If the mailing address is the same as the current, you do have a checkbox to make that easier. It will then flow over. If it is not the same, then that gives you the opportunity to enter that in. The language preference drop down here, this is where you can select the borrower's preference of their language. Once you select this, it is not going to change any of the loan application into a different language. This will just note it, and this will then print out on the SCIF form. Underneath that, we have 1B, which is our employment and income area. So you'll want to fill in the employer. I'm going to fill in this is a job, and then you can fill in the address. You do want to make sure up at the top, the employment status, that you have at least one company that is current and checked for primary. This will be important if you are running Fannie or Freddie inside of Point. If you hadn't checked this, you would get an error. So once you've filled in the employment information, down below there is a chart that says income type, and there's a new button right above that. If you click that new button, this is going to allow us to enter the type of income that they get at this job. So we have a drop down. You can select the type of income that they get. Maybe they have a base, and you can enter their monthly income here. Now, if they tell you they make X amount of dollars per year, you can also do that in the system here. You can select yearly and type in the amount. When you hit calculate, it will then put in the actual monthly income for you. You can also add more income to this job. I'm going to click Save and New. So if they also, on top of the base, they also earn a bonus, I could select that for this job as well and put that in to add it as well to the income. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. You can see the check boxes underneath the income. There are some check boxes that you can have for self-employed or seasonal or foreign income. If they do have a self-employed or business owner, you can select the business owner self-employed and then select the percentage of the company that they own. And finally, the last section on section 1 is the other income from other sources. This is the same format as the others, where it's got the add button above the box. You'll click that and it gives you a drop down with options. So if you do have alimony, child support, pension, Social Security, you can add that into this area. Now we're finished with section 1. You can either navigate the rest of the way through the application using the forms list on the left side, or if you'll notice at the very bottom of the screen, we now have gray buttons that are also the same sections in the application. So we can go either way to the next section. The section 2 is about your assets and credits. So section 2A, this is any of your bank accounts. I say anything that has a bank account number is a good way to remember this one. So you'd enter the company that is holding that account, the type of account, you can enter a account number and then enter the amount here. Below that are any other types of assets. So if we click here, they give you a list of items here that you could use. These won't necessarily have an account number. And 2B, other assets and credits. Let me click new here. This one also gives you a list of drop downs that you can use inside. The most common is probably going to be the earnest money that you have on a purchase file. If you enter this here, this will then flow over to your fee worksheet and to your loan estimate. If we scroll down, we'll get to the liabilities section. So the first one, 2C, this is liabilities with your credit cards and other debts. When you request your credit, this will be the area that pulls in all of those liabilities. So you'll see a list in here. You can also add liabilities in with that new button. You can type in the company here. I'm going to add a mortgage so we can match in the liability with the REO. You've also got check boxes right below. These allow you to mark it to be paid off. So if you are doing a refinance, if you mark it off before closing, this will not count into the debt to income ratio. It also won't show it being paid off like at closing. So just a note for you. You've also got resubordinate if you are keeping that second mortgage, and then you also have omit. I'm going to save and close this one. So you can add any other liabilities that you need to do. Below that we have other liabilities. So liabilities that are not going to show up onto your credit report. You can pick the borrower. If you have a co-borrower, the borrower drop-down will have the other person's name as well. And then you can select the other type of liability. You've got child support, child care, alimony. You can enter that information there. The final section, section 3 on this page, is the REO section. So down here, since we are doing a refinance, our property has auto-populated into this section for us. If there's additional properties, you'll click the New button down below and add that in. What we'll do in this one though is double click it or do the highlight and click Edit so it opens up and we can enter in the other information that we do want to put. You do want to fill out this middle section with the property value, your status, if you are keeping it, and the intended occupancy. Over to the right of that, you have the occupancy rate. If you had this as a rental home, you could put the rental income and then your occupancy rate here for it to auto-calculate the rental income for you. That will only calculate though if you have your intended occupancy listed as investment. So it has changed over there. I'm going to close this down. The next step is you've got to match your liability with your REO that you've created. So above the box for the REO, you'll see a box that says match with liabilities. If you click this, it's going to open up two sections. The top section is the liabilities, so everything that was listed in that credit report or anything you added. The below section is the REOs, the ones that we entered. So the one on the bottom, you can see out to the far left, the REO number, it has number 1. What we want to do is make that same REO number match up top. So you would highlight the REO up top if it's one or multiple, and then click the match button in the middle. And now you'll see that far left column, the REO number for liabilities and REO match. I continue over to section 4. Section 4, you can see a lot of the information is pulling over, so you don't need to enter that. If you do want to enter the legal description under the subject property, you do have that ability in this area. 4B, this is other new loans that you've got on the subject property for refinancing or purchasing. So if there are other ones that aren't listed, go ahead and add those in here. The 4C section, this is rental income on the property that you are purchasing. So if you are purchasing an investment property that already has a lease on it, or you have a contract that has rental agreement, you could enter that information here to offset your debt to income ratio. And 4D on this page, this is gifts or grants. So if they are receiving any gifts or grants, you would click add here. It gives you a list of the types of gifts that they can receive and a source list. You do have deposited and not deposited check boxes here. If you click the deposited, it will not count this cash value in your asset since it is already inside one of your other accounts. If you do click not deposited, it will count that cash value into your assets available. Section 5, let's go over there. Section 5 is just your declaration page. You'll see these questions. Some of them have gray boxes underneath them. When you select yes, the next box will open up to ask you a question. If you answer no, you do not need to answer those questions. So you've got that for the borrower and the co-borrower. And then we'll go over to section 7 and 8. Let's Section 7 is our military question, so you would answer if they had ever served and their type down here. And then the demographic information in Section 8. These check boxes do allow you to check more than one, as well as enter any additional information the borrower gives you. Section 9 of the application. This is going to have your loan originator's information on the left, filling in their license, email. Phone number will be left blank. This gives them the opportunity to add in their cell phone number, or they can put in the company's main number. The interview date, this is the only date that will print on the application. And over on the right is your defaulted company information. This should be entered by your admin and will flow over for you. That is the end of our application with all of the sections in that. Now let's walk through how you can submit your loan to Fannie or Freddie from inside of Point here. You'd go up to the menu bar at the top under Services, and you can see at the top Fannie and Freddie. So you would highlight either one that you'd want and go to the Fannie Mae Addendum DODU. Once this opens up, it will give you the opportunity to select your transaction request. You will need to run credit and underwriting first. It does need to pull in that credit report to then be able to run your Fannie Mae. Below that, you have your submission type. You have preliminary, interim, and final. And below that, you have your lenders. So if you do have lenders set up, you can click this refresh lender button and you should see all of the lenders that you are signed up with and that you can run through your AUS here. The credit section right below that, there are several credit companies that have a separate ID and password for when you are running a desktop originator. If they have told you that you are one of those companies and they've given you the separate ID and password, this is where you would put that credential information. If you wanted to run Freddie, you would again go up to your services, to your Freddie Mac here, and then your loan product advisor. Freddie or Fannie, your first run, you always want to do credit and underwriting, so you can select that. And then you have your credit company below. This will then allow you to run it in the system and you will see the results pop up. And finally, keeping track of your loan with your loan statuses. So if you've gone through your loan and you've put it into an application, it helps keep you organized if you update your status throughout the process. You can do that easily. Over on the far right, you'll see in the information bar there is an Update Status gray button. If you click on that, it opens up all of the statuses that you have as an option. You can click in the left checkbox and that will put today's date in there for you. If you double click that, it will allow you to change that date. So if you do need to select a date that is earlier than that, you can put that in there. And click OK here. So once you save this, you will be able to see that it is now in the application status in your pipeline versus other statuses as prospect that may be beginning files that aren't fully active yet. Thank you for attending today's webinar. We hope you've received some helpful information. If we did not get to your question during this webinar, we will reach out to you shortly with that reply. At the end of this session, you will receive a 5-question survey, and we would appreciate you completing that so we can improve our training program and follow up with you if you so choose. To further assist you, a recording of the webinar will be available through the Calix customer portal very soon. Have a great rest of your day.